Yo, yo, yo! Will AI take all of our jobs? And how will modern technology affect the property industry moving forwards? Well, in this video, we're going to explore the different prop tech solutions that are on the horizon and how artificial intelligence is going to become ubiquitous with property development. Stick around to the end of the video to find out. This video is going to be an exercise of hubris. We're going to be looking at hypotheticals, but also definite things that are happening and that will be inevitable, but we just can't exactly put a timeline on it yet. However, AI has surpassed most predictions so far, so who's to say it's not going to do the exact same thing here? I've just always been obsessed with technology and science and how it affects the world around us, and it can be a good instrument to use to try and forecast what might happen in any of our working markets or in society or for people as a species. There's so much coming. And AI is a general purpose technology. It's not like it's just going to affect a narrow field. It literally will affect everything, much like electricity or energy. And it's definitely going to come and affect the property sector. Even though I'm not as bullish on how quickly it's going to happen in the property sector, because there's so much regulation, so much red tape and gatekeepers that will get in the way. But that doesn't mean that there won't be arbitrage to be had if you can use technology quicker than your competition. And I think that development's going to become a more and more competitive space as time goes on because of technology elevating people and lowering the barrier to entry. And we'll explore all of that in this video. So let's dive into this. First, I'm going to tell a little story because it helps set the scene. Going back 7 years now, I actually founded an app. The app was called DigiMe. And at the time, I was in a band. We had over 3 million online followers. And what I was trying to think is, how do we increase the bandwidth constraint from a celebrity and a fan? There's one celebrity with only so much time in the day, and there's millions of fans. So I had this idea to digitize the celebrity in an avatar, and I called it a DigiMe. And I created this prototype app. I raised £22,000 in a seed round. As the user, as the celebrity, you could input these contextual voice packs with different bits of context that you'd be happy to talk about with a fan, with responses and other bits and bobs. And then you create your avatar and you use your front-facing camera to record expressions. And I saw the pace of technology and what was going to happen with this kind of modality, where you could have an exponentially scalable celebrity that could have and build rapport with its fan base. And when I was in the band, it was almost an obvious thing that this would get huge adoption from the fans as the first early adopters, and then it could be more scalable to a wider use case of, say, wanting to make your mum and dad immortal, or your grandparents, people who may be on death's door, but you want them around when you have your wedding one day. What would they say to you? How would they talk to you? And you could create these different contextual memories almost within this avatar. And I just thought the use case would be crazy. I just didn't have the time. I was in a band and it was successful, and I kind of lost the idea. Still today, no one has done that idea. And the way the internet's going and ChatGPT, that we're kind of almost creating these things vicariously anyway, just by chatting to ChatGPT and GPT 4.0, we're almost able to create a GPT that's either representative of ourselves or of our business, or an autonomous agent that can act for us. That's only going to become more and more prevalent as the years go on, and then we will just immortalize ourselves and upload all the tweets that we've ever posted and all the YouTube videos we've ever been in. There's loads of content of me out there. I'm sure that if someone just wanted to go and mimic me, they probably could quite easy. But anyway, that was the idea. I learned a lot about what was happening in the industry, how it was moving, and ever since I've just been obsessed with following the technology, just following the progress. And it is insane. And for people who don't follow this stuff, I'd suggest that you do, because it's going to be a paradigm shift everywhere. It's not like it's just going to affect social media, or just going to affect content, or just going to affect an industry. It's going to affect everything. Everything. Just like ChatGPT came and fully undermined the whole educational system, because now if you've got an iPhone, there's no exam that you can't pass without this technology, which kind of makes you think, well, what's the point in taking the exam without the technology? Surely we need to create new types of exams and ways of testing people using the technology that we would have access to in the working world. And the same thing is going to happen with every other industry, and our security systems, our cyber security systems, our physical security systems, our border security, just social security with misinformation and artificial content. And there's so much that's going to come out. We've got elections coming up this year. There's a lot of scary shit happening as well. But we're not going to think too much about that in this video. We're going to think more about the practical use cases in the property industry. But just before we do, we're going to look at the music industry. It will make sense because I can relate it quite well to the design process and the conveyancing process and all of the administrative parts of the property sector. So there was an app that came out recently called Udio. Now, myself and Sonny films loads of content with me and manages social media. After the band, we made another act called Feats, and it was just me and him, duo act. We made loads and loads of music. And whilst we were making all this music, this is during the lockdown, we released a song every single week, and you can go listen to those songs. It's called Feats music on Spotify. Go check it out. Kitchen is a banger. SpongeBob is a banger. So No Rest for the Good Life, another banger. So yeah, let us know what you think of those. Anyway, when we were making all those songs, we were noticing just how quickly music production was getting commoditized, and almost to a point where you could pretty much make music for free. Now, if you just went back 10 or 15 years, it would cost you tens of thousands of pounds to create a song, to mix and master it, and go into a studio session using sound engineers, using all the right analog equipment. There's just so much that went into it. Now, I could probably do it in the time it takes me to make this video. I could probably make a song as well. Actually, no, beyond that, with this new app, I could make a song quicker than I could probably say what I've just said. Because now an app has come out called Udio. And Udio can create a song based off of a basic text prompt. And you can choose a genre, a style of the music, you can choose a pacing, you can choose lyrics, and you can just make a song from scratch. You don't need any domain expertise. And that's the important point here and why it's relatable to property. You do not need domain expertise. You don't have to sing, you don't have to have any specific creativity. You can be an absolute moron, yet you can now make a phenomenal song. You can make it in a blues style, a jazz style. So you're not only a musician now, you're any kind of musician. And that's what's going to happen in the property industry with the design process, with the conveyancing process, with the legal process, and it's going to happen really, really quick. So Udio is a good analogy for what's about to happen in property. So why is the property industry different? Well, there's a lot of real world constraints and practicalities in property that don't necessarily exist in music, like materials and subject to global supply chains, which are very much a physical process, as well as red tape and regulatory constraints. And at the moment, because we don't have advanced enough robotics, we still need all the lads on site and trades and skills and many years of experience to be able to take a plasterboard and stick it on a wall and then skim it off and then do your second fix electrics, etc., etc. So there are a lot of constraints. But in the preliminary process, in acquiring the site, in doing the design work, in the conveyancing, in stacking the deal financially, there is no reason why that can't be streamlined to a matter of hours. There's no technological reason why we can't. It's just the gatekeepers and the regulatory capture around property that is going to slow this process down, because no one wants everyone to be a developer. Everyone can now be a musician with the app Udio, but do the banks, do central government, do other landowners and big developers want everyone to just suddenly easily be able to build property? Well, again, because of the physical real world constraints, the building part is probably not going to be disrupted anytime soon. And when I say soon, I'd mean years. Decades, yes, robotics will come in and they will start building our houses. It's just inevitable. It will happen. But for now, it's more of the conveyancing process. So there's actually a company called Koju. It's a startup company, and it received a funding round from NatWest and Lloyds and Rightmove. They've created this app where they want to pull everyone together who's a part of the buying process, from brokers, solicitors, agents, buyers, etc., to one centralized platform. Now, I've actually spoke about this in detail on the podcast. If you don't know our podcast, it's a Ground Up podcast. It's myself, Stuart Wyeth, Jack Jiggins, and Dorian Payne. Called Ground Up. We all get together every week and we talk about different things happening in the property and business space. So go subscribe, check it out. Shameless plug. So Koju, they want to create this all-in-one platform for the buying and conveyancing process. And if you just extrapolate it out and then appreciate that competitors will also come in and there'll be a race to the bottom of, this is deflationary technology, it's what happens. It brings the marginal cost of production down to zero. And ultimately, there is no reason why we can't introduce and implement blockchain technology with title deeds so that it makes the conveyancing part immutable, and any historic title deeds and documents and anything associated with the property and the existing owner can be stored on a safe and secure ledger that then at the point of transaction goes straight to the next person. Yes, there will still potentially be bits to sign, but minor bits that can then streamline a process that currently takes months through conveyancing and local searches and other bullshit. And that could make it, I don't see why it can't be minutes. But obviously for that to happen, there has to be a huge administrative push towards getting all the historic data that's out there and all the properties in the UK and get them all digitized. So yes, there's obviously a constraint there to get this thing going. But again, we're just looking at the inevitabilities in this video, things that are definitely going to happen. And then you can use your brain and I'll use my brain to try and plot, okay, well, what does that mean? What's the knock-on effect? Where's the career security in this space? Because there isn't career security left in quite a lot of other industries, especially that are heavily reliant on administrative tasks or software. And Goldman Sachs did a really interesting study on this. They released a graph, I'll pop it up on the screen, showing what industries and what sectors are likely to be most disrupted from AI. And there was lawyers, architects, IT, mathematics, and a whole list of other things that were all going to be heavily disrupted in the near-term future. And then right at the top, as the least disrupted, were construction, maintenance, property development, because they are constrained to real-world practicalities, like I was saying before. And I'm sure you can understand what those types of things are. There's a lot of stuff that just gets in the way, that makes it hard to streamline. And if you're in the industry, you know how difficult it is dealing with the planning process or dealing with conveyancing as solicitors or lenders underwriters. I don't see much need for brokers in the future. I don't really understand how that is a safe and secure career path anymore, because essentially all they're doing is assessing options that are in a marketplace, refining them and giving that information to a buyer. And AI is just going to be able to do that so easily. So I think with a platform like this that CodeJute's proposing, even though they're saying they want to bring together solicitors, brokers, buyers into one core platform, really what's going to happen eventually is they'll just make it redundant for any of those services to exist, because just one solution will be able to do it. And that's not hard to imagine. That's a pretty straightforward thing, so long as all the parties participate, which they inevitably will, because that's what a competitive market does. So we'll just move everything towards one point of transaction, which means you'll be able to buy a house very quickly. And what does that mean? If you can buy a house very quickly, then that turns the property industry from what is an old slow moving market, an illiquid, to a liquid market where you can transact twice in the same day. You could buy a property and shift it on the same day, and then tether on other things to that. So then let's say you want to appraise a site and see what kind of planning permission you can get. What can you do with the site? Well, satellite technology, and you look at Google Earth and Google Maps and how much that's progressing. It's not hard to extrapolate that either and assume that eventually you'll be able to get a full massing of a property, probably just from a satellite image. Maybe you won't be able to get it millimeter accurate, but there'll certainly be a lot you can do if you're buying land or buying a large property. Let's say the phones are good at taking surveys from inside a property and giving you a 3D model out of it, and that's just going to get better and better. And eventually there'll be a relatively inexpensive device that will do full surveys for you, probably a drone that you'll just ping out and it'll fly around the property, give you the full survey, and within hours you can then just plug that into a CAD software. Well, you won't plug it in, it will just speak to a CAD software, and probably instantaneously, before you've even packed up the drone, it will then come up with all of the designs and all the potential plans you could do with that site that fit in with the local planning policy framework, etc., etc. I'm sure you see where I'm going. And if the planning process also adopts AI, which has got to be something that becomes a part of the conversation in the UK, because so much of that process is down to slow communication between intermediaries in the council, who are, by the way, all funded by the public sector, who are all funded by the private sector, which is us guys working hard to try and create business and grow the economy. And then you've got this bureaucratic public sector process that's completely slowing it down. And that's getting highlighted more and more and more as time goes on. So I think it's inevitable that the planning system will implement these kind of technologies and turn to the private sector. There'll be such a pressure from the private sector for them to do that, to deliver more houses. So again, I think it's inevitable eventually that the planning sector will adopt AI, at which point, why on earth will planning take any time at all? It will only be large contentious schemes that maybe do need to sit in front of a planning committee because it could affect the populace in the area, etc., etc. But again, how necessary will that be? Because AI will be better at determining the full outcome of that development and be able to consult with everyone individually through an app. I mean, there's so much that can happen there. I'm going to do a separate video on planning and how technology could come and disrupt that, because I do have an idea for an app that I think would be applicable, almost like a social app that can be used for the planning process. There can be a rating system for developers, for councillors, planning officers, as well as local people, and everyone can participate in one network where planning can then become something that's truly democratized and something that's truly transparent and also much quicker. Let's assume planning take on board AI, and then you've got this company here that's already started up to try and pull together the conveyancing process, and then you can have a digital surveying equipment that's super quick, super easy to use, LiDAR built in, flies around the property, gives you a full digital survey. Well, there's already architectural softwares, AI driven, that can just show you a million different interpretations of what you can do with a piece of land, what you can do in an existing building. So then the architectural process will be pretty much instantaneous, and you just pick which option you like, and then you need to go and see if you can get that underwritten and get it funded. Well, after you get the planning permission, which we'll assume will eventually be instantaneous, and then you got to get it funded, which means it has to be underwritten by a bank, and they need to appraise it. I mean, are the banks really going to rely on human beings to underwrite things when they have AI that can do it much better than them? I don't think so. So they're probably going to lean on AI as well. So what's going to happen then? Let's say this all happens within a week. You're going to buy the property instantaneously. You're going to be able to survey it instantaneously. You're going to be able to get planning instantaneously, or at least get a decision or a likelihood of planning. And then you're going to be able to get funding or a decision in principle for the funding almost instantaneously. So there's this whole new kind of ecosystem that's going to evolve, and development is going to become something very different to what it looks like today, where we look at it as in this slow sequential process. I think it's going to become very hot and dynamic, and it's going to be something that's moving very quickly. The only thing that's going to slow it down initially is going to be the construction part. That bit is hard to commoditize and probably won't happen for a while until we have robots that can come and do everything that a human being can do with our extremities and our dexterity and our general intelligence. But again, you look at what Elon Musk's doing with Tesla, you look at Boston Dynamics, these robots are coming. So it is inevitable. You know, human beings just won't be building stuff in the future. We just won't. And we'll look back on it and go, it was mad, wasn't it? We used to lay bricks, and we used to get dirty and work cold winters. We used to stop at 1 for bait and have a tea and slow down, and there was 10 people on site all being unproductive. And that's just not going to happen in the future. It'll be robots that just do work 24/7, and they just keep going and keep going. You just plug them in to charge them, and they keep going and keep going. So construction will inevitably become disrupted as well. But for now, it's probably the most protected sector. But all of the preliminary stuff, I just think, is quickly going to become deflated into what will be a much much more competitive marketplace, because what happens when it becomes easier to do? Well, then everyone else can get involved. And that's where this relates back to audio. If you're watching this video and you think, this guy's nuts, this isn't going to happen to property's this, property's that, well, everyone used to say that about 2 years ago about music and about creativity. AI's not going to be able to create anything. It's not going to be creative. It can't think. It's not sentient. Well, you'd be fucking wrong, because it can literally make songs instantaneously now, and immaculate songs. Better songs than I ever could, better songs than you ever could, better songs than most producers ever could. If you just took that back a few decades and you thought about the amount of people involved in the music process and how long it took and the instruments you needed and singing and the experience that you needed to be able to play these instruments and create a good song and something that people would want to listen to, and the engineering and the analog equipment you needed on a mixing desk and a sound booth and hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of equipment and all this stuff to pull together these different tracks and these different sonics of instruments and sounds and voices and put it together in one clean MP3 file. At that time, you'd think, no way, will AI be able to do this? And of course it can't. This is too many variables. Well, it now can. It's instantaneous. So that same thing plays out for the property industry, for all of those things that currently knowledge workers do. If you're a knowledge worker, you will be disrupted by AI because it's a better knowledge worker. And the conveyancing process, the planning process, the underwriting process, the design process, all of those things are knowledge working driven. Yes, they need analog inputs like a survey or permission because of the democracy and how that works with local councils and planning permission, but everything else can just be done instantaneously. So it is going to happen. It is inevitable. And I think it's going to happen a hell of a lot quicker even than I think it's going to happen. I think it's probably about 5 years away until we start to see just one, whether it's a website or whether it's just one platform or one ecosystem where all of these things take place, and we don't have like a Rightmove over here and then a Searchland over here and then a solicitor's conveyancing thing over here and a bank over there. It'll just all be in one format, the same way that audio is now for music. It's just one platform and it gives you the song that comes out of it. And in this case, it's going to give you the development proposition of that site that you're trying to buy, or it's going to sell the site for you, or whatever it is. And you think about how augmentation's going with like 3D designs and how immersive it's becoming. Most people probably won't even need to go and view a property in the future to make a buying decision, especially not investors. They'll just be able to stick on a headset or just look through their phone, and investors buy with us through just looking at their phone. So why will you really need agents, selling agents anymore? What value will they be adding when you can just upload it direct to the platform and get instant feedback off a potential pool of buyers? Or you could look at what development options you have on it. Can you get financing? Are you worthy of financing? Find out all these answers super quick. But hopefully you guys have now fully understood my interpretation, and I am someone who does understand a lot about what's going on in this sector and technology and AI, and I rant on about it a lot, but only because it's just such a paradigm shift to everything. And it does scare me as well, if I'm honest. It's one of the only fears that I have at the moment, is what happens with this infinitely intelligent force that's going to be ubiquitous with every part of our society and every part of our business and our operations, and what does it mean for employment? What does it mean for purpose? And there's a whole load of other things that we could go into, which I won't do in this video, but I do on the podcast, in the Ground Up podcast, so make sure you go subscribe to that. But anyway, hopefully this video has been useful. We are moving into these unprecedented times where industries are being reshaped and transformed within a matter of weeks and months rather than in a matter of decades, and we're just not used to that, and the property industry is not safe from it either. But we're business people, and if you're watching this and you own a business or you run a business or you're in property, you should be doing everything you can to utilize these technologies. And let me just finish this by painting the picture for what ChatGPT really is and the reason it's been so fundamental to everything. A lot of people use it and think it's this gimmicky little chatbot software and it can help you read documents and rewrite documents and a bit of marketing stuff here and there, but that is a short-sighted way of using this tool, especially ChatGPT 4.0. What's really happened is ChatGPT is an introductory medium for how we will communicate with this new species that is AI. And it's a speciation event. We are creating a new phenomena around all of us and how it affects not just business, but how it affects our kids and education and the prospects for humanity. There's so much that gets changed because of this one general purpose technology. And ChatGPT is the first way we can start to communicate and understand the interoperability between human intention and expectations and artificial intelligence capabilities. So you have to go and use ChatGPT 4.0, even if you don't give a shit about making money, even if you're a philanthropist, even if you're woke. I don't give a shit what you are. Just go and try ChatGPT 4.0. It will change the way you view our world, the way you view where the world is going, and it should help mold a perspective on what should this technology be doing. Like, should it be completely democratizing and deflating every part of our working life and of our society, and what does that mean to be human? And there's so many mind-boggling questions that you start to ask yourself when you realize how powerful this tech is. But at least in the short term, if you're running a business, you should be making the most of learning how to communicate with this new species. species. Will it join us? Will it merge with us and we become a cyborg and we are the speciation event? Or will it surpass us? Only one of those two things can happen. We either become a new being or we get surpassed by a new being. Those are the only two outcomes. So go and study it. Hopefully you found this video somewhat interesting. It wasn't particularly meant to be that educational. It was just meant to be a bit of an illustration for how I'm thinking and getting my thoughts out there in the world. Because we talk about all of this stuff internally all the time. We just bang on about technology and politics and society and what's going to happen. And we did it for years in the music industry. And we were like, one day you'll just be able to make a song by like clicking a button or thinking about it. But it just seemed like a distant dream. Like, yeah, but not anytime soon. But now it's already happened. And that was a big moment for me. I was like, fucking hell, that's going to happen with everything, every sector. That's going to happen too. Property is not safe, so it will happen here as well. But anyway, that's the video. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.